But we're going to move on to the OKC Thunder. They were the 5th seed last year,
Oh yeah,
finished
this should be quick.
44-28. They lost to Houston in 7 games. The great James Harden block on Lugens Dort. Lugens went for 30, I think, that game, or like
Did you just gas
29.
it? The great James.
It was a great block. Okay, but
Um,
basically their team that they went to the playoffs with is gone. Chris Paul is gone. He started. Gallinari started. He's gone. Schroeder, their 6th man, he's gone. Steven Adams, their starting center, he's gone. The storyline for their season for me is building for the future. And what better year to be bad than this year where Cade Cunningham, Jalen Green, Jonathan Kuminga, Jalen Suggs are all in this draft. They got Al Horford, who I think fits better with Shea because he can step outside and hit a mid-range shot, an occasional three. Ty Jerome, a young player. Justin Jackson, not a young player, but in terms of experience and years, a young player in the NBA. Trevor Ariza is there. He probably is going to get a buyout or get traded. They traded
Theo
for
Melton,
I think his name is Maladone. Teo Maladone.
whatever. You knew what I meant.
Teo Maladone. George Hill is there, 44% three-point shooter. I mean, they got some guys, a young team. Their coach is Mark Dano. I don't know how to pronounce that, but he's Billy Donovan's a long-time assistant. So he's finally getting his first crack as a coach. He was a head coach for the Thunder's G League team. In the draft, they drafted Alexej Pokusevsky, Teo Maladone. So, I mean, they're building for the future. It's obvious in that. I think the main question with them is, are they going to put Shea at the 1 and see how he develops as a point guard? For me, I think Shea is more of a 2. That's just my opinion. The lineup I'd put out there is George Hill, Shea, Lugens Dort, Darius Bazley, and Horford. I think that lineup gives them the most amount of spacing, and it can help Shea develop.
I agree with you on the lineup. I think that should be the lineup going forward. I think George Hill is a veteran. He's a guy who you should definitely want to put in that starting lineup just to give your young guys some leniency, help them learn the way. I think George Hill can still teach Shea some thing or two about the offense, how to initiate it. I think OKC, this was the perfect situation for OKC in the sense of that team wasn't going to win the championship. We all know that. They were just going to be a competitive team in the West. I think this lines them up for a possible pick at getting Cade Cunningham. If you get Cade Cunningham back there with Shea, those are 2 6'6", 6'7" guys, long arms, with the potential to be a very deadly offensive and defensive backcourt. So I think this is great for them. I think this is great for the rebuild process with all them picks. And I think Sam Presti is doing an incredible job out there. But this team is obviously tanking. They're not going to be good. Lugan Dortz is there for the future. Darius Bazley is there for the future. It's going to be interesting to see the development of those guys. Plus, Alex, I don't know how to say his name.
Pokusevsky.
Yeah, him. He's a 7-foot. He's supposed to be a phenom. I keep hearing about him. He's projected to be really, really good. Superstar potential. He's that good. And then what's the other guy's name?
Maladone.
Yeah, Maladone. He's the offensive playmaker. He was good. I watched a couple of his tape yesterday. He's pretty good. So this is a team who's built to build the young guys up. And this team is going to be well good moving down the line. But this year, I project them to be the last team in the league. They're going to finish 15th, highest maybe 13th. I think this year we're just going to be watching the development of the young players, not really worried about the wins and the losses.
Yeah, you guys said pretty much all there is to say. I mean, the bad news is they're probably going to be one of the worst teams in the league this season. But the good news is if there was any year to start this rebuild officially, I guess you could say it would be this year, one of the most hyped up drafts in over a decade. So I think there's a lot for Thunder fans to be excited for. And I do think there's some nice pieces here. I think if they were in the East, you could make an argument that they could push for a playoff spot or at least a play-in game spot. But the West is just too difficult, and it's going to hurt them. I do like the idea of Shea splitting time between the 1 and the 2, seeing what you have, but I agree with Joel. I think he's a 2, so I expect to see a lot of George Hill at the 1, Shea at the 2, but developing Shea, Lou Dort, Bazley, and then guys like Teo Maladone and Alexis Pokusevsky, I think is very important this season and will be important moving forward when you use these next 5 years and 16 first-round picks or whatever it is that they have now. And it's not going to be a long rebuild. I can tell you that much. They're probably going to draft for 2 or 3 years, and then they're going to flip the switch, and they're going to use those picks to bring in some stars and really start to compete. But it's going to get bad before it gets better. So
and they have cap too. They'll have cap next year and the year after that. Look out for them in free agency because OKC isn't a bad site. It is actually a pretty good site for free agents. I think it's going to be better in the long run. People trust in Sam Presti, and people trust in the fact that Shaq can ball out, and they're going to monitor that young talent for a while to maybe get 2-3 guys to come there and team up, and that become a new super team. So look out for them in free agency.
In terms of free agency, I think they can acquire some really good role players. I don't think any superstar is going to OKC. That's just my opinion. That's never happened before. Small markets are usually not the destination for it. So I don't see that at all. But, I mean, this year is just a developmental year. And what's good about OKC is that even though they're going to be the worst team in the West, in my opinion, I'm projecting them to finish 15th, maybe as high as 14th, but I see them at 15th. They're still a very competitive team. They're young, they're competitive, they're going to play every single night. And it's going to be even though, like, if I'm a Thunder fan, I know what I'm signing up for. I know this is for the future, but I think the team that they built is still a team that is going to be fun to watch. Another player who's coming back from injury is Andre Roberson, but I think Luguentz Dort is just a younger version of him. But Luguentz Dort can actually, develop a jump shot. I think that's the only difference. They're basically the same players, so there's no reason. There's no reason to play Roberson. Yeah, so there's no reason to play Roberson because Luguentz Dort already fills that role.
Yeah, and I would not be surprised to see Sam Presti keep doing what he's been doing and using this season to almost up Al Horford's trade value, up George Hill's trade value, and see if even maybe at the trade deadline, hey, you're a competitive team and you need a backup point guard. Well, George Hill is playing really well for us this season. Or, you need an anchor down low. We have Al Horford. Look at what he's doing for us this season. And, he did that with Chris Paul, essentially reignited his career and changed the outlook on him. And look what he flipped him for to Phoenix this offseason. Granted, Al Horford and George Hill are not Chris Paul by any stretch. I think he could look to do something similar with those two guys and just keep building up the assets, let that young talent develop, open up some cap space, and they are going to be, Sam Presti is going to have like a sandbox job for the next 5 years. It's a dream job for a general manager, and he deserves all the credit in the world for what he set up for himself.
My most improved player of the year, man. Shah. Let's get it.
His name is Shea.
Don't talk to me.
It's not Shah.
Don't speak to me. Yeah. Me and him got a different relationship. You don't know why I call him that.
Sandbox job. That's a pretty good analogy right there.
Yeah, I don't know what that one threw me off, but I was like, all right.
It's like when you're a little kid playing in the sandbox. That's essentially what he's gonna be doing. He's gonna be playing NBA general manager on easy. Imagine having 16 first-round picks over the next 5 years and the young talent that he has and the cap space. It's a dream for a general manager.
You're calling a grown man a little child playing in the sandbox.
It's an analogy.